All right, y'all. So today's devotion is our reminder that God can and will use anybody in his plan, even the most imperfect person. So we're going to get into the story of Jacob. Now, Jacob was a twin. He was the youngest twin. And Jacob, though he grew up favored and spoiled, later on in life, he didn't make the best of choices, including tricking his brother into selling his birthright for a bowl of stew, and then later on conspiring with his mom to trick his dad to steal the blessing that he was going to place on his brother. So in doing so, his brother got mad and was ready to kill him. So Jacob had to flee. He had to go. So he flees and he goes to his uncle's house. And while there, God gives him a dream. So we're going to go to Genesis chapter 28. He had a dream in which he saw a stairway resting on the earth with its top reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. There above it stood the Lord, and he said, I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out to the west and to the east, and to the north and to the south. All peoples on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. Okay, this is very symbolic because in that time there were these things called ziggurats, and I hope I said it right. But basically what it was stone staircases that were built to try to reach heaven so that heaven and earth could be connected. Now let's look at John chapter 1 verse 51, which says, you will see heaven open and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man. That's the same from what we just read in Genesis with Jacob. And what God is pretty much trying to get us to see is that Jesus is that ladder between us and the heavenly realm. That we don't have to build this enormous staircase to get us to reach heaven and to talk to God and be close with God, but that we have that through his son, Jesus Christ. And looking at Jacob's story and looking at what he's done in his past and what he's been through, and seeing that God can still make that promise to him, that I am near you, that I am with you, and that I will keep my promise for you regardless of what you've done. I think we can all learn from that. And I'd like to share what Jacob said after receiving that dream and that promise from God. He says, surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it. He was afraid and said, how awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of God. This is the gate of heaven. Then Jacob made a vow, saying, if God will be with me and will watch over me on this journey I am taking, and will give me food to eat and clothes to wear, so that I will return safely to my father's household, then the Lord will be my God. And this stone that I have set up as a pillar will be God's house. All that you give me, I will give you a tenth. And I think we can all kind of have that assurance that Jacob had after that dream, that God is with us, and that the promises that he has made to us and for us, he will keep. And because of that, we can have faith and we can serve him freely as Lord and Savior over our life, because he will not abandon us. He will not turn away from us. We're not doing this journey alone, that he is walking with us. It's also important to note that although God made that promise to Jacob, there still came a point to where Jacob had to literally wrestle with God. Now, Jacob eventually reconciled with his family and with his brother, but that was a journey in and of itself. So although God makes us a promise, it doesn't exempt us from the trials and tribulations from life. And in Jacob wrestling with God, he was really wrestling with himself, his flesh, his sins, all the parts of him that needed to be changed. And eventually his name did get changed to Israel. He struggles with God. Now, his previous name, Jacob, meant deceives. So anytime God does a work in somebody, he would change their name, and their name would reflect their new character. And in struggling with God, in which he was really struggling with himself, he was able to become anew and change. And that brought about the future blessings that God promised him in that dream. So through his story, we can see that, yes, God makes wonderful promises to us. He has plans for blessings and for good things. But that doesn't exempt us from the trials and tribulations of life and from the consequences of who we are as a person. It also shows us that God has a lot of mercy and grace to change us and transform us into who he has called us to be. And a lot of times that comes with us wrestling with him, quote unquote, when really we're wrestling with who we are in the flesh. We're wrestling with our own pride, with our own addictions. We're wrestling with our own failures. We're wrestling with our own fill in the blank, whatever it is that we're wrestling with. But God in his mercy and his grace is willing to go toe to toe with us to bring about that change, to bring about that new name, to bring about that new life, which is freedom from all of what was holding us back. So y'all, let us hold on to the promises of God. Let us not grow weary in waiting on Him. But let us also realize that there is a transformation that takes place so that we can be the person who is worthy to not only receive that promise, but to walk in it fully. Because if we don't change, if we stay in our wicked ways, if we stay in our sin, if we stay trying to please our flesh, we will not even be able to comprehend or understand how to manage the promise that God has for us. But when we allow that transformational work to change us from inside, which will eventually show on the outside, which will change our mindset, the way we move, the way we carry ourselves, the way we think, the way we treat people, the way we treat ourselves, then after that transformation, we will be able to carry the blessing and the promise that God has for us. Because He's not going to place us there prematurely to mess it up, to fumble it. No, He wants to make sure we're prepared to handle it properly. So as always, I hope y'all were encouraged. Don't stop here. Go and read the story for yourself. You may be able to pull something out of it that I did not. If you did, please comment below. I love to look at things from a different perspective. And as always, don't let anyone or anything dim your glow. Let that light shine. Somebody out there needs it. And let's make today a great one, okay?